This is a story about the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we live out in the world, and the space between those two. It's about how we love, how we lose, and how we recover, or not, through the stories we make up in our heads. I'm Robin Rice, and this is also my story. Chapter 15. Reading the Future. Of all the rookie mistakes a writer makes, the most important is not the cliché, nor the telling versus showing, nor the lack of vocabulary or the proper use of strunk and white, or the selection of editing styles, Chicago, APA, AP, MLA. No, the most important is letting someone else unduly influence our voice. There are so many ways for this to happen. There is outright plagiarism, in which our voice is not only not our own, but not even trying to be. If we are cheating in this way, then we are desperately unsure of our capacity for original thought, which is what makes it so tempting. All the more reason to get to the real work of finding our true perspective and style so that, in time, we have confidence in what we have to say. More subtle is the sloppy copy. Perhaps we read and fall in love with Dickinson or Joyce or Whitman or Dillard or Lamont and think it would be better to sound more like Dillard than ourselves. We then try to write like Dillard. We have no chance because we are, in fact, not Dillard, so of course we fail. Knockoffs are knockoffs, sold on all the lesser sidewalks of the world. I can't imagine the person for whom this is good enough, but I know they exist and I pity them. Similarly, we might have become enraptured with the clean lines of Picasso's work and so hope to tell our story in clean lines, a kind of kitty-cat artistic association. In this, we are only borrowing a style, not stealing it. It's just the nugget of inspiration, the jumping-off point, which seems okay enough. But our writing will, in the end, also only be okay enough. We must start from a deeper root, and this can only be found within. To take it further, these days we can ask an AI to write our story as if it were Picasso's. Here's a first line of a poem, compliments of ChatGPT-4, crafted in under 10 seconds. In strokes of colors, shapes, and lines, a canvas spun by the hand of time, I paint you now a poem of abstraction, a Picasso-esque ode, a swirling reaction. Amazing, but whose voice is this? Not even a human's. Finally, when we ask another for advice on what to write, or take an idea generously offered by someone who won't write their own stories themselves, we are assuming someone else knows more than we do. There is a place for expertise, to be sure. Ask an oncologist when an oncologist is called for, if we are not one, and maybe if we are, for a second opinion. But even here, we can and we must be careful. We ultimately have to trust ourselves to follow our own minds, hearts, and guts, tangled as they are. By now you understand I am not only talking about writers and writing. I am talking about how we live our lives, about our personal originality. It's incredibly difficult because we are, in fact, knockoffs from our own parents. Even if we think we are not, we are unduly influenced by our extended family, our friends, the 5 people we hang out with the most. Also the songs we listen to, the school we go to, by choice or default, the influencers that we follow. There's so much interference with our own unique voice and perspective. Even so, it's essential for happiness, for meaning, for a sense of purpose, to live as originally as we can. I say all of this now, at this juncture in our stories about stories, because post-awakening, this is exactly what I failed to do. I did not learn from my own experience and take from my personally emerging truths. Instead, I was seeking to build my new life story and perspective with advice from any Tom, Dick, or psychic I could find. Anyone who had the kind of experience I did, or even something slightly adjacent to it, were welcomed in wholeheartedly, invited to tell me what had happened to me, and why, and what to do about it. Massive mistake. Enter the labyrinth. I spent hours, days, weeks alone just sitting on my bed, on my couch, at my desk, thinking. A lot. Just thinking. Thinking and more thinking. Thinking with breakfast, thinking with lunch, thinking with dinner, thinking when bored, thinking on purpose. Even thinking in my sleep sometimes. Like a tongue perpetually exploring a hole where a tooth used to be, the thinking mind simply would not let this experience exist without understanding. Every day felt like chaos was dancing in my brain. Exciting, brilliant, beautiful chaos. But chaos nonetheless. My encounter with the medium had proved to me without a doubt that there could be a connection to dead people, just as I had known for myself as a child. I realized I hadn't been seeing dead people as much as sensing them, at least lately, and that I had not seen Nell or my father with the medium. But I felt them, potently, viscerally. That was a solid something, along with the names she had. Something I could definitely confirm, at least to myself. I wanted more of that, as much more as I could get. Interestingly, I wasn't trying to get back to the experience of my awakening. My drive was always to understand, to bring what I found there, here, to good old ordinary reality as a living being on planet Earth. I didn't want to lose Robin, only bring more of her to her, or into her, or something. I could not explain the drive, but it felt alive, accessible in every moment, like a higher octane coffee running through the deepest lines of my veins, continuously. To satisfy this drive, I made a dozen appointments with as many different types of magical people as I could find. I called that psychic that was next on my list, then another and another. I had no real way to learn if the person who was reading me was legit before meeting them. I had to go by feeling to decide if it was worth the investment of time and money beforehand. Usually, I was right. I was wise enough not to call any 1-800 numbers, and kept myself from the lure of flashing neon signs in small windows on the sides of the highway. Well, actually, to be honest, I did try both, just to prove my instinct that what they had wasn't what I was after. I was right, and I ran away, fast. I told myself I was being thorough, rational even. But in reality, all I could do was experiment on this wild side of life. There was little rational about it. It went like this. I got a number, made a call, then made an appointment based on the sound of their voice, but only if it felt right. I soon learned that no one person was going to be good at everything. I found that interesting in and of itself. It made me wonder what I might be good at. Often the session was interesting, and the person knew more than was realistically possible. But it wasn't always overly enlightening. If you told me they were only reading minds, I would have probably believed you. That alone would have been impressive, though, right? Many of those I spoke with were more impressed with my story, when we finally got to questions about it, than their own. They wanted what I already had. Nearly all of them were on target in some way. Perhaps they got my married last name, or that I had 2 children and one that was never born. That seemed low-hanging fruit. One said I was guided by a mystic named Ramakrishna, whom she had never heard of before. Sure enough, I found a book about him. Mostly insane, he danced with the dark goddess Kali, and paid the price for it. Now, what exactly was I to take away from that? There were a few consistent through lines that came up with everyone. Apparently, I was a big deal to the other side, with countless guides always waiting to have a chance to speak. Also, they always knew I was a writer, though they could not have got that from my name. I didn't use caller ID, and I was careful to never give more than my first name. You will write many more books, they all promised. About what? They had no answers besides all that you're experiencing. Apparently, I'd know when I knew. When I got huffy about it, they all honed in on my underlying anger. Me? Angry? Still? Maybe, but who wasn't in this world? I began asking each person to suggest the most gifted person they knew, the person they would go to for information. In doing so, I got access to better and better talent. Somewhere down the line, I got the name of a woman named Rosalind, who was living in one of the Carolinas. I can't recall if it was north or south. I called her office, and her assistant answered, but as I was warned, she told me the wait list was 6 months long. Did I still want to book? She asked. Before I could answer, and I cannot say how many times this happened in one way or another over the years, she said, "Oh, wait, hold on, please." When she came back on, "Is 3 p.m. tomorrow good?" Yes, actually it was. Did you have a cancellation? I asked. No, Rosalind just walked in and signaled that I should book you as soon as possible. The guides told her she should be on the lookout for someone. I guess that's you. Well, that was interesting. I hadn't even given her my name yet. I asked Rosalind about skipping the line the next day. Yes, I was told you were coming, she said excitedly. I knew it was you when you called yesterday. Got a shiver up my spine. A shiver? I asked, even as I felt one myself. She laughed. I am psychic, you know. A shiver means something important is up. You've got 40, maybe 50 guides in a line here, no kidding. Angels, archangels, ascended masters, ancestors, even some aliens. They have been crowding my energy field for days. I know enough to listen when something big happens. You must be something else in the other worlds. I'm no one, trust me, I said. Not according to them, she replied. I tried to be open. I also tried to imagine 40 or 50 guides, including aliens already aware I was going to call and so crowding her space for days. More than ever, I felt like I was walking into the Wookiee bar from Star Wars. I should ask for your autograph. You're going to be famous. I am? It was something I'd heard a few times already, though no one had asked for an autograph before. Oh yes, you'll write at least a dozen books. Well, you'll publish that many. You've already published some, and written a few that won't see the light of day, haven't you? Your guides say not to feel disappointed. Just consider these ones as practice. By the way, I think that was just Archangel Uriel speaking. Do you know him? I thought of the 2 manuscripts in my drawer, fully finished and ready to never go anywhere. She was definitely onto something there. But Archangel Uriel? I'd have to look that one up. Sandalphon, too. Wow, he's beautiful. What do they want? Just for you to know you're not alone. Thank you, I said. I was truly appreciative. I could not see or feel these angels, but I remembered the ones from childhood, so there could be no other response. As for this world, she went on, you won't have health problems, at least none you don't already know about. You've had some problems down there, I see, but you're fine now. I affirmed a surgery for endometriosis in my mid-20s, and having been told that if I wanted to have children, I'd have to have them immediately. She said, okay, like she was patiently waiting for me to stop talking. I had a feeling she wasn't really listening to me anyway. She was listening to them. They want to address your concerns, but you have a lot of them. What you ask will determine who steps forward. We got another 45 minutes, so what do you want to know? I felt the pressure mount. Now I had to have really good questions, and if they were the wrong ones, would I miss something important? Or maybe offend someone? I had a really powerful experience recently, I said. It just happened to me out of the blue. I can't find anyone who has had one quite like I did. Does anyone up there know what that was about? She listened for an answer. I see. Yes, I understand, she said to them, not me. Of course, they all do. They've been waiting for you for 35 years. They say people are going to be reacting to your field more and more. They're saying it's like having thin skin. Your light shines through from the inside much more than before. That shine is going to continue to grow. You might not think so, but it's been there your whole life." She was right. I didn't think so. But she got the 35 years right. And I felt that way about Roxanne and Nell having extra light. And I felt it that day under the tree with light out of my backyard woods. So maybe that's what she was meaning. And the experience? They're saying you've been calling it an awakening, and that's a good term to use, or at least good enough. They say they have awakened the sleeping giant. Even your father saw it, didn't he? You mean when I was young? More recently, when you spoke to him, when he said happy birthday. Whew, she knew about that. That was pretty specific. Wait, was Dad here again? I could not feel him, which was just fine by me, but still I got the shivers. What does he want? Don't worry, a different, higher-level guide is asking your father to step aside. She says you can call her Elizabeth, though. She doesn't really have a name. You'll be seeing her soon, she says. You can think of her not as a person, but a metaphor. I don't know what that means. Neither do I replied. Okay, she says you'll know her when you see her. She's of the light, the very high light. Are you sure she isn't Nell or Nell Marie? Damn, there I go again, giving it away. No, she's Elizabeth, though her name is not her real name, she says. It's just a way for you to refer to her, that's all. She'll visit you, but there are a lot of, shall we say, strange things coming your way. Other visits and visitors. It'll be that way for a while. Not forever, but for a while. Some of it will be scary, but she says don't be afraid, nothing can hurt you. Just like people can see your light better now, the otherworldlies can see you better now, too. They always could, but you're an even brighter light now. So you're drawing more attention. Everyone wants to see where this thing goes. This thing, I think, but did not say aloud. Great, I said, only half under my breath, then changed the subject. What about love? I didn't say my Henry, but I'm sure it was there in the tone of my voice. I was trying not to sound desperate. In fact, I was desperate, but that was embarrassing. So far, everyone had said my future love would be magnificent and a match made in heaven, and he was always right around the corner. But my right around the corner was tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Theirs had to be different because tomorrow morning after tomorrow morning rolled by without anyone of significance appearing. Plenty of lovers if I so chose. No Henry, though. Not even close. Whoa, I'd say, she replied after tuning in more deeply. Now that's something. He's almost here. You're going to be really, really happy with him. Everything you ever wanted. Almost here meaning, sorry, dear, I'm terrible with timing. They're just on a different time schedule over there than we are here, aren't they? It's impossible to translate accurately. At least she was honest. She went on to tell me many things about my life, with details that she could not have known, and addressed a range of smaller concerns I can't recall and probably wished I had not wasted my time on. She finally ended with, You know who you are, don't you? If you don't, think about it. You need to know. Your task is huge. Think more? Wasn't that all I had been doing? And a huge task? Another thing I'd heard plenty about, but what was it? No one would say. I hung up the phone and sat there for at least an hour, thinking. All in all, each psychic, healer, and medium was distinctly accurate about specific, unknowable details. This one was more on target than most, hence her reputation and waitlist, I'm sure. It was more than any rational part of me could explain. But that accuracy was far more about the past and present. It was the future I was interested in. How am I supposed to know who I am? I yelled to the ceiling. No answer. Either that or I didn't know how to hear. More likely the latter. Okay, so I was angry. I shouldn't have been. How many sleeping giants get awakened? I tried not to let the stories from each encounter build on each other, but it was nearly impossible. And just to be sure I wasn't being strung along on a scam, hearing the same thing that everyone heard, I paid for a few other friends to have sessions with the same people. I gave my friends instructions not to ask leading questions or speak of anything I told them. Each one found their reading unique, meaningful, and personal to them. No one spoke of anything I had been told. For sure, no one heard the words sleeping giant. So what was going on? No, really, what was going on? The idea of a sleeping giant being awakened appealed, of course. Who would not want to be that? And something in it felt right, too, because of what I had seen, not because I was Robin. But it was also profoundly unsettling, because I knew I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had assumed my awakening must have something to do with this magical world of knowing things you have no rational way to know. But what was the exact connection? What was it for? What in particular was I supposed to do about it? I wanted answers, not wild goose chases. One day, fed up, I took this question about the sleeping giant into my meditation. What are you doing, feeding me all this ego-boosting stuff? Aren't we supposed to be resisting our ego on the spiritual journey? In response, I clearly heard this. We are not nearly so worried about you falling into your ego as we are about you not stepping onto your path. Don't worry, you'll be humbled whenever needed. Side note, they were very right about that. I took their words as permission to keep going, but the internal dissonant pressure was intense. I was trying to live up to my awakening, only to perpetually feel as if I was failing in some way. Big-time failing. Robin was, by all accounts and at all levels, still being Robin. Same problems, same internal mind-nagging bullshit. The formidable one was ever on guard. My brain synapses were all still set to fire to all my historical triggers and longings, my fears, in short, my hot mess of a self. I'd toggle between my regular self and my awakened self, finding no one who could speak to the greater duality that had appeared within me. None of the books held any clarity, and no one I met knew what had happened. The guidance I found through journeying to meditations continued to expand, and I was repeatedly assured that I had time, but was also encouraged to get on with things. Maddening, confusing. My progress felt mud-walking slow. I was awake, okay, but what good did it do me, or the world? It was time to take matters into my own hands. It was time to start training myself in earnest. Enter your labyrinth at BeWhoYouAre.com.